Welcome back to the Playing Out Loud podcast. It is a special December episode, end of the year. And I have a very special guest. He goes by many names in my phone book. Phone book. I don't have one of those. My cell phone. We have one Mr. Ed Ronco in with us today to do a special episode that we're just kind of calling the end of year podcast recap. And by end of year, we mean just 2025 because New Year's will be here in about 45 minutes. So right. We are doing this special podcast because a lot has happened this year in performing arts, and we want to just review what has happened, celebrate all the great wins, talk about what's been challenging, talk about themes, highlight all this good stuff, and end on a hopeful note because it is a time of year for hope and love and joy. And so we'll do that. And I think we'll have some fun along the way.
I hope so.
We'll see.
I think so.
Maybe.
We'll figure it out.
Okay. For those that don't know Mr. Ed Ronco, Ed is the current, and you've been in this role for a little bit, but you are the director of IPR News, correct?
Yes. I'm the news director for about 3 years now.
3 years.
Yeah.
Feels a little bit longer, huh? In radio?
In a good way, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those jobs that is so much fun that it's only been 3 years and it feels like it's been 30, but I mean that as a compliment. Like I can't quite, it doesn't feel like I came in that recently. Yeah. Yeah, which is good.
And I think as a listener, it doesn't seem that
Thank
way
you.
either.
Yeah, thanks.
You have a cadence and a quality to it. It's just like, this has been like this for a minute.
Thanks very much.
But you have some experience, obviously, outside of being news director. You were with the public radio in Seattle and Tacoma, KNKX. Did I get that right? For 8 years.
Yeah, about 9 years there total.
Nice.
I hosted All Things Considered, the afternoon show.
Lovely.
For about 7.5 years. And my time before that, I was the morning edition producer. So I had to work a shift that was from like 4 a.m. to noon.
Oh my gosh.
Which was wild.
I can't.
And when I was done doing that, I felt like I could see color and smell things again. Like I was so tired. I had no idea. And so afternoons were a much better fit for me. But I'm on mornings here now, and I really like it.
Yes. And not only that, though, but you are also active in the performing arts. And folks can't see the iPad and how much I'm scrolling, but it's a bit of scroll because you've been performing since you were a kid, right?
Oh, yeah. Like since I was 9 was my first community theater show where a family friend said we're low on boys for the Music Man. Can we borrow yours? So off I went to be in the boys band.
Can we borrow yours? That's how it all starts,
That's
isn't
right.
it?
Slippery slope.
So your first show was The Music Man, and your most recent show was The Minutes at the Old Town Playhouse. But in between then, there's been quite a bit, which we won't get into just because I think for today's episode, we're going to focus a bit on a broader scale, but also because our audience doesn't know what I'm reading, but there's some really great trivia and stuff in here. So we will have you on for a separate episode. But I think the folks listening would love to hear about Prince Dauntless and Barney and Eileen. It's Eileen, right?
Eileen, yeah.
There's some good stuff in there about those folks and your past and the very long resume of work that you've done. And so your news background, your passion for performing arts, your experience for performing arts makes you great to wrap up the year, I think.
Thanks. I feel like I get to use both backgrounds today.
Yay!
Yeah.
They don't teach you that in like school, right? Of like, they just like take a test and here's what you should do. And then all of a sudden you grow up and you're like, wow, all this experience has acclimated to this moment.
No, like in the career test you take in 8th or 9th grade or something to figure out like what you want to start thinking about doing for a living. There's no combination of bubble filling that gets you to part-time community theater actor / public radio host in rural northern Michigan. None. And I think, if I remember correctly, one of my options was poultry farming.
What?
Yes. When I took that test, it recommended among the many things I could do with my life. At the tender age of 14, it steered me toward poultry farming, which doesn't sound awful, to be honest with you.
We might have different definitions of awful, but I also think we took different tests.
Maybe.
Mine was a bit more broad brush stroked. It was like performing arts or music, and then math and education. Very big brush about poultry farming.
Yep. And I had chickens once upon a time, but maybe we should save that for a later conversation too.
There's a lot to unpack there, Ed. So we're going to start with kind of the top of our list here and just chat about a bunch of different things that happened this year. And I will make the note that this is not an all-encompassing list because as I dove into what are all the things that happened this year, performing arts-wise, the list is borderline endless. And there's probably so much that happened that will not be encapsulated in this list. And it's not that we didn't want to share it. It's that we sort of couldn't.
Well, and that's sort of its own story too, right?
Yes.
Like that we live in a place where you can have an endless list without having a major megalopolis nearby.
Yep. Yes, megalopolis, exactly. And while Traverse City has grown a ton, especially since the pandemic, there seems to just sort of be this exponential trajectory. I feel like the performing arts or certain aspects of it are on a bigger trajectory than even the population growth of the city. I don't know. You'd think those would be sort of a one-on-one, but I think there are folks that have lived here that are tapping into their performing arts than they never have before. They're trying new things. We see it at the Playhouse, the TC Phil, a bunch of different places. It's not just kids. It's not just like new people moving here. It's like, oh, I've lived here for 30 years and I've always wanted to act, so I just showed up.
Yeah. Or people who are on hiatus for a long time.
Yeah.
Like we have a friend who, did theater in high school and then college, job, kids, and 20 some years later gives it a whirl again and is fantastic.
Yep. Yeah. So let's start with schools. TC West did Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat in the spring. That's a big show.
It's a fantastic show, and that's a huge show to stage. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot, especially that Dreamcoat. It's amazing and Technicolor.
It's red and yellow and green and brown and scarlet.
That's a really big show. But they have a booming program, as we know. TC Central did Year in Town.
So good.
Very recently, so good, so fun. Both those high schools are swinging it. They're doing great.
It was really stunning. I went and saw You're in Town with you, and it was really stunning to walk into that auditorium and see the incredible set and to reflect on my high school theater sets. And we could have a conversation about what that translates to in terms of theatrical experience and everything.
Sure.
But because I don't think it's a one-to-one thing. But it was really cool to walk in and see the work that had already gone into that show before a note was sung on stage or an actor appeared in the light. I mean, and then the actors came out and that was even more tremendous what was going on. So really wonderful to just take that in.
And what I think is also impressive is that TC West has a great theater program that's quite robust, and it works very well with the music program, which has been strong for many, many years. And TC Central doesn't have a formal theater program, but you kind of wouldn't know that based on at least what we saw at Year in Town. And so I think those are two stunning examples, at least here in Traverse City, of the talent that exists, the direction, the passion, the drive that is there, and when or if cultivated, creates great results for young folks.
And we went on closing night, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, closing matinee.
Closing matinee, and the auditorium was pretty full, which we did 2 shows in high school, and we were happy if the second show had, half the seats full.
Yeah.
And so that was overwhelming too, was the turnout to see it.
And it wasn't a short run. I think it was a fairly longish run, and just great all around. Leland produced The Sound of Music and Oliver, 2 incredible classic shows. I believe Mary Newman is at the helm there in Leland. I have a friend whose kids are in those shows, and they're always raving about them. It's on my list next year to see those, but I've heard wonderful things coming out of Leland. And it's so great because I think it's a little community where kids are coming in from lots of different pockets in that region, and they're coming together to, Sound of Music and Oliver, quintessential musicals for, I think, everyone to have in their repertoire at some point, or at least know as classics.
And textured musicals too, right? Both shows that have a lot to them, a lot to get into, and a lot of things that as an audience you can think about the nuance of it all after the performance. And as a participant in it, you can think about bringing depth to a character in a way that a lot of other things that, quote unquote, school theater doesn't sometimes participate in. So it's really nice that they did those shows. Those are both beautiful, beautiful shows.
Yeah. And another classic, St. Francis did Annie Jr., a beloved, I think a classical kind of Americana musical, a really good story that I think everyone can get around. It's also so great to see private, public, rural schools doing pretty decent sized productions. Those are not small shows.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lift in those. And Annie sometimes has a live dog in it. So, those are big feats. And again, I think this, between the ones we've just mentioned so far, show the meatiness, I think, of these programs to jump into.
Totally.
The Leonel School has done, this month they're doing A Christmas Carol, a beautiful classic. We keep saying classic, but it really is a quintessential story for the holiday time. And not a lot of folks probably know about the Leonel School. And so this would be your opportunity to Google it. It's a nonprofit school that specializes in education for folks, for kids that come from around the world. And they do wonderful work there. And we're going to chat about them in tandem with the Glen Arbor Players. But it is a beautiful school tucked in Leelanau County, gorgeous campus. It gives sort of Interlochen vibes. You're really in the middle of the woods there. And the teachers and everyone there it's really an incredible little school. So it's wonderful to see a revival of performing arts happening in that little pocket as well.
That's very cool.
A similar adjacent school, NMC, our local college here.
So much music there.
An incredible amount that I keep hearing from different people how actually competitive it is. They have chamber singers, chorale, NMC children's choirs, which have been around for a minute. And I think the one I've heard the most buzz about is the NMC Jazz Band. Those shows, people are clamoring to see those. We have friends whose kids have been in those shows and they just love it. They love it, love it, love it. And so if you haven't seen NMC performers, if you don't even have to know anybody who's going to NMC, I would say make that part of your 2026 bucket list, I think.
I was going to say that this is rapidly becoming like a to-do list for me.
Yes, it is. And we're just going to touch the tip of the iceberg here, but there's a lot of great performance happening school-wise here. And there's probably more that are not on this list. And so as we move forward, hopefully we'll do this annually and the list might grow. It probably will, because I think the community in general is growing.
So much.
So let's jump to community theater. Lots of different things happening there. As I mentioned earlier, Glen Arbor Players, and we had a representative on earlier, so feel free to check out that episode. But Glen Arbor Players had, I think, their largest season to date. It was 4 or 5 different shows, and they started a new partnership with performing at the Leelanau School.
Very cool.
I think this is a great local partnership. It's a great thing for both organizations to kind of uplift each other in unique ways. I mean, normally you wouldn't think of a school and just a random nonprofit theater coming together. But I think this is a great example of what can be done when you look at what is around you and sort of accept it and open doors together.
I love those moments when that can happen, both for the tangible things that they can share, like we don't need 2 sets of props. We don't need 2 costume shops. And for the intangible things they can share, where older actors can learn from younger actors and younger actors can see what the older actors are doing, even if it's just a few years. I just think that's really special to have that proximity to each other, even if they never do a full co-production or something.
Yeah.
To have that relationship seems really important.
Yeah. And I think in that particular community, it is small. It's highly seasonal. Everyone knows each other. It's just a great addition to what's already existing there. I was lucky enough to see The Kitchen Witch that the Glen Arbor Players did, and it was so cute and so funny, and new faces on the stage, young folk and folks that have returned, and recurring faces. It was such a great blend. Yeah, I loved it. So.
Is it called the Kitchen Witch because, after the thing people hang in their kitchens? Because my mom had a kitchen witch for a long time, and I would always ask as a kid, I'd be like, why is that in our kitchen? She'd be like, it's a kitchen witch.
My grandmother had that too. It's
no
not
further explanation.
Nope.
It's a kitchen witch. Deal with it, kid.
First off, we have a lot in common. And it actually might be called Kitchen Witches because there are 2 female leads in that. But no, it's not related to that, but it's a really cute show about 2 women that do a local programming cooking show together.
Oh my
and
gosh.
The drama that ensues, and one of them has a son that's producing the show. And
are they interested in restaging this? Because I'm really sorry I missed it now.
That's a great question. It was so fun. It was just so fun. They had a blast with it, and the props were great. And it really, I think Glen Arbor Players really took a step up this year. I think last year I was able to perform in one of their shows, which was a really great experience. But this year, things have leveled up a little bit. And I personally love to see that. But I mean, I recommend if somebody in your community or if somebody next year is doing Kitchen Witches or Kitchen Witch, must see. Our friends over at Elk Rapids Players had big wins this year.
Huge wins this year.
Arguably, I would say the biggest wins, I think, of any community theater because it's twofold. One, they had, I think, the largest amount of expansion for an organization that has no staff, and as far as productions are concerned. And then two, the win of Hertha.
Yes, getting this building.
The building, big win.
This beautiful late 1800s town hall that the government that owned it, the local government, was going to sell, and just how close it came to not being a community space. And the fact that Hertha, the historic Elk Rapids Town Hall Association, was able to get this, now own it, and do things going forward in it. Just, it's stunning. I have big feelings about this after having done an interview about it. And the heart and the very essence of community that represents is really quite moving, I think.
I think it shows the integrity of the community that supports it. It just is like a great example of literally when you come together, you can accomplish great things. I know that sounds like it should be on a cat poster hanging on your wall, but it's really true.
Well, I talked to Rob Ford, who I know you've had on the podcast, who is, one of the driving forces in Hertha. And I asked the obnoxious journalist question, Chelsea, which is, you preface it and you like, there's a reason I'm asking because I want you to explain it to people. But I, basically said like, okay, great, you got this building. Why does that matter? Why does it matter? Why not just, I don't know, rent out the high school auditorium for a couple weekends or something? And he talked so eloquently about why it matters, why it's important to have a gathering space. And he used this phrase that's going to just stick in my head until the day I die, hopefully many, many years from now, which is, it's a place where you can get lost in community. And that idea of just being like taken away into something that is beautiful and lovely, where you're wrapped up with other people who are close to you. That was so heartwarming, and it just sounds like they've really got a good idea of what they're trying to do there.
And I think that's represented in the second part of their immense growth, which was they had their first ever summer camp for kids, and it was busy bees.
Great.
They also produced a original script and an interactive production called Voices from Maple Grove, which if you haven't heard the episode with Rob Ford and Nan, you need to, because we talk about it on there, but it is definitively community-based theater. Like I cannot point to something that's more community theater than this, because it's a script based on the folks that are in the local cemetery and who they are and what they represented to the community.
To people who were actually buried in the local cemetery.
Literally. And so the performance happens in the cemetery and there's a discussion about the importance and all that stuff. And I'm like, that's definitively community with community members. They also did Love or Best Offer. They are currently producing the Best Christmas Pageant Ever, which is such a great name. So it's been an immense year. And that's why, for me, I would say like biggest growth from a theater standpoint goes to Elk Rapids Players. Like if I were to give them a blue ribbon, I think they just knocked it out of the park this year with the growth. And it's in line with what Rob explicitly said.
I told Rob Ford this when I talked to him. I was in the Best Christmas Pageant Ever when I was a kid, like 30 years ago. I played Elmer Hopkins, who was the minister's son, and has, 5 lines or something. It was great. What a fantastic show. And my favorite part is when it's about this kind of unruly group of kids who are in a Christmas pageant. The youngest of this unruly family, when she announces the arrival of the Christ child, instead of hark or lo or something, she shouts, Shazam, which just still 30 years later delights the heck out of me. Okay, thank you for letting me say that.
Of course. We also want to chat through Benzie Community Players. They did 2 productions this year, I believe. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, an amazing production, and a classic that I think needs to be in every community theater's repertoire at least once, like every, 10 years or so. Steel Magnolias. Magical. So, and if you're not familiar, go check out Benzie Community Players. Just a little bit south of us here in Traverse City, but they're doing good stuff. And it's another, again, like nonprofit, very volunteer focused. And they're doing 2 productions here. It's great.
One of my colleagues at IPR, Alex Harriman, was the stage manager for The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and told me a lot of stories about how that came together. And it's fantastic that they did that.
I would say if you're interested in really trying something new, something you've not seen before, that's probably one that can be on your list is the Benzie Community Players. And then we want to give a little shout out to our friends up at Mashup Rock and Roll. Tons of shows this year. One I want to highlight that I know Marc, who is our studio producer here, went and saw and thought it was the absolute bee's knees was, and I just love saying the name, Quack to the Future.
It's so great. Every name, you could just read off a list of their names and just be tickled for the whole. It's just, yeah, they do wonderful, wonderful things.
Yeah. And, Mashup is also, we'll chat about their growth as well this year, but they've been around for several years now in the making, and they're to the point where their repertoire will kind of be put into rotation, which I think is a pretty big milestone. Leslie and team are doing a really great job over there at Mashup and bringing diverse musical theater that you will not see anywhere else. Point blank.
Literally, it's original. It's it's not that they just pick obscure productions to do. It's that they make their own.
Quack to the future.
Quack to the future.
Just let that sit for a second. Want to move on to dance. We have yet to have folks on the podcast for dance, but it is very, very high at the top of my list. But they're busy. They're really busy folks. So two in particular I want to highlight. The first is the Traverse City Dance Project. For those that aren't familiar, this is a relatively new nonprofit to our area that Brent Whitney is one of the co-founders, and he bounces back and forth between New York and Traverse here. He's born and raised here. And they are doing really, really beautiful stuff here. This year they held their first ever Northern Michigan Dance Festival. That was in October. It was a full weekend of different types of performances, and I think there was like talkbacks, and you got to meet some of the dancers and all this really great stuff, and it was a success. They also did a summer tour, so they went around the region. They went to Frankfurt, they were here in Traverse, they went up north, all around, and brought modern and beautiful, ballet style, etc., to the region of dance. And I think a lot of people sometimes can find dance to just be like, they don't understand or they don't connect to it. Or they're like, man, how are they doing that? It's such a physical feat, Or they just sort of get caught up in these classical ballets that are 3 hours long, kind of like an opera, right? Like I find folks, especially my age, ballets and operas don't resonate so much. So I think what is happening at the Traverse City Dance Project is really great because it's opening people's eyes to the storytelling that dance and movement are. And for them to literally bring it around the region is also, I think, a really, really big win.
So I was joking earlier about how this is becoming a to-do list for me. And this is a real part of that, because dance, to me, has always been, of all the art forms, probably the most opaque. I don't know a lot of dancers. I don't understand the process of how a dance goes from concept to being on stage. So I'm eager to see some of this. And also, I really applaud anybody who can work toward demystifying it for audiences, right? And making it accessible and making it something that people can just sit themselves in front of and take in. And get it and enjoy it.
Yeah. I think during my time in LA, I was a member of the Los Angeles Ballet. I was a season subscriber member, and I absolutely saw the classics. I saw the Sleeping Beauties and the Romeo and Juliets and all that beautiful stuff. But some of my favorite stuff was sort of like world premieres of new modern dance. And I distinctively remember one. It was 2 or 3 movements with music that was written for this, I guess you would call it like a ballet or like a mini ballet. And it was a story on a tough subject. It was basically kind of the story of Holocaust and the survivors of that. And, with minimal set, like next to no set, and just beautiful dance and body work and movement that told a story, you were moved to tears because you could feel and see the story of pain and anguish and all the things that are wrapped up in that history through dance. And you never would have really put those two things together, right? So a lot of people think, ballet is like, the Nutcracker, right? I think of that for Christmas.
Sure.
But you wouldn't necessarily put hard-hitting stories together. And I think that was one of the many pieces that for me has unlocked it, is pairing a sort of unusual or out-of-the-box idea for you with dance and movement, no words, no music, at least lyrical sort of bass music, and seeing that arc kind of come together and having that aha moment.
And how special is it to go see a style of performance you're not super familiar with, in my case, dance, and be able to ask 2 questions as an audience member, right? One is what you ask, it may be anything, which is, what are you trying to tell me? What message are you sending me? But the other is, how are you going to tell it to me? What method, what choices are you making to convey that story? And it is fun for me to sit and decode that and try to figure out, like, okay, there's not a lot of set, or the costumes or the apparel is this way. Or I just think that's a really special opportunity when you walk into a place where, okay, I don't really know this art form very well, but I'm gonna give it a whirl. Like, I have those two questions in my head, right? What are you telling me? And let me pay attention to the way you're telling it to me, too, which is a joy.
Yeah, and those are clues also in theater. I think of a show that seems inaccessible to a lot of people, like they don't understand it, and maybe that's part of the theater. But there's the show Waiting for Godot. There's like one thing on that stage for a set, and then two guys.
Yep.
Or I should just say two humans, because that could be interpreted differently. But pretty basic, pretty minimal.
Yeah.
And you walk in, and I know a lot of folks are like, what did I just see? I'm going to have to think about that for a minute, which is great. But it challenges, your preconception of, well, theater's entertaining, or theater's this or that, right? And you go and you see next to no set, and you're like, why was there no set? Why is there only one apple on stage?
Yeah, and I mean this in a really good way, but like, you ask yourself, what is your purpose for bringing me out here tonight? There's an answer to that. It's not a rhetorical, rude question. It's legitimate. Why do you want me to be here tonight? And therein lies the appreciation of the story, however it's presented.
Yes. And then the other dance folks I want to mention are at the Northwest Michigan Ballet Theater. This is a young ballet theater company that's been around for some time, founded by the executive director of Ballet Etc. And they do beautiful classical work like Sleeping Beauty and The Nutcracker. But next year, they're doing, I believe it's a little bit more of an original ballet, and this is what makes them really unique and something worth seeing. They're doing a Midsummer Night's Fairy Tale in 2026. And I'm sure the idea of Midsummer Night's Dream kind of comes together, but this looks different. And I think something that, again, a lot of people don't think about when they think about ballet and movement is the originals. We don't think about it the same way when we think about new plays or a new hit Broadway musical, but there are new hit ballets.
Yeah.
And Northwest Michigan Ballet Theater is working on that.
That is exciting.
Let's move into orchestras. This is one, orchestras, symphonies, classical music, we could probably go on forever. Because as Ed and I were chatting before we started recording, I had said that I feel like this particular pocket of performing arts is booming more than possibly any other genre, I guess we'd say, of the performing arts. Ed has plenty of insight on this as somebody who's working at Interlochen. And we will chat a little bit about what they're doing, certainly, but there's some pretty big things happening in this region.
Well, I mean, look at what TC Philharmonic has done in the last year and change, right? They're now in their own facility at the Cherryland Center. They're doing classes. They've built sort of an education center there. That's remarkable for an organization in a city our size to be able to offer all those programs that cities much larger than ours could only sometimes dream of having with their symphonies, if they have a symphony orchestra at all.
Right.
So TC Phil is a really impressive organization, and I'm adjacent to the world of classical Interlochen public radio. So I see them coming and going, and I hear them on the radio talking about things. I'm always just sort of, I think the phrase that runs through my head most often when I hear what TC Phil is up to is, no kidding.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. I think that's probably exactly what my dad said when I talked to him about it. Countless events this year, especially with their head maestro there, Kevin Rhodes. Tons of pop-up concerts. Tuba Christmas just happened.
Tuba Christmas.
This year, as we heard more recently with Lynn, the TC Phil's Civic Orchestra programs did their first ever summer series. And the expectation that she had was, maybe like 25 people would be able to do it, and we'll get enough to do some 70s music. 50 plus people showed up.
To perform?
Yes,
or
perform.
To watch?
To perform. Oh, it was.
I was going to say to watch. It was
packed.
Yeah.
It was hundreds. It was packed. And they did 70s music, and they, dressed up in 70s garb, and the young kids that participated were introduced to 70s music.
Oh my gosh.
And
I mean, at this point, you could introduce them to 90s music too, which we'll have feelings about that later.
We'll just get some Nirvana. Actually, Nirvana, and as a chamber piece would be great. So huge wins. And the center is beautiful. It's beautiful on the inside. I'm lucky to be in there most Tuesdays, taking a little break now until semester starts in January. But you walk in and I feel like, to your point, this is something I would expect in like Detroit or just Chicago, like a beautiful rehearsal hall with many rooms and tons of people in and out, Benzie Area Symphony Orchestra, also known as, I think it's Basso, B-A-S-O,
Cool.
Basso.
Profundo.
Yes. Produced classical Mozart this year. They have a great series called Classics in the Country. They did Romantic Piano, which I was elated to see. Rococo Cello. Lots of great stuff happening. And what's nice about the Benzie Area Symphony is that they move around. They're not always in one place. So they're not just in Benzie. I saw them at Corson Auditorium of all places. And it's a donation for a ticket. So if you're like, I'd like to see some symphony, but I don't know if I want to spend a lot of money because I don't know if I'm going to like it, give Benzie a whirl because you're going to donate to a great nonprofit with a bunch of really great performers. And you can probably see one of their performances near you.
So I'm curious. I know what a cello is.
Yes.
I know what Rococo is, like that sort of style of design that's very ornamented and elaborate. What is Rococo Cello? I've never heard of that before.
I believe it's just...
Is it a piece?
It's just kind of the type of concert, basically. So, for example, they had like classic Mozart, right? So that's all the classic Mozart. Romantic Piano was a selection of different type of music that just kind of gave way to a more of a romantic feeling. It was not done in February, which is kind of interesting. But I think the Rococo Cello was a bit more just dynamic in its kind of style of performance. And that's what's nice about all these. Like, maybe Mozart doesn't turn you on, but cello is my favorite instrument. So I'm like, I don't know what the Rococo Cello is, but let's go do it. Or I've not seen it, so let's see what that is. Or a great date night is Romantic Piano. Classics in the Country. Sign me up. We also have some small groups. One in particular I want to highlight are the Manitou Winds because they have had their 10-year anniversary together this year. That's a long time.
It's impressive for a small ensemble.
It's 5 or 6 folks, I believe.
I think so.
And our friend Sam Clark is in that. They just completed their kind of winter series, or December series, I should say, 2 performances, one in Beulah and one here in Traverse City. And so if you're interested in small group, beautiful wind instruments, Manitou Winds is a really great way to go as well.
Yeah, you're right. They're just completing their 10th year. Wow.
Yeah.
May of 2014 they formed.
Can you imagine playing music with the same folks for 10 years?
And they look like fun.
Okay,
I can with these people. I mean, their photo on their website, the French horn player is holding the French horn on her head. There's also, looks like a clarinet or an oboe on somebody's head. I can't quite tell from this angle. But and we know Sam Clark, who plays flute and is just a dynamite human being. So
she's a great flautist.
Yes, indeed. Quite.
We're going to kind of highlight other events and places around this region that are doing great stuff. Porch Fest 2025.
Great concept.
I experienced it for the first time this year and I was blown away. I need to bring an inflatable like armchair and just move it around. But you also like, I want to sit and watch like the whole show, but you sort of can't because you want to go see somebody else. And some people do. They have friends in the band, and so they're hanging out on 5th Street for the whole time. But I had to walk around and see all of the different performers. So Porch Fest is a fantastic way to meander through Central District and get some great music and do a little bit of people watching.
Can I make a recommendation?
Please.
I'm making this up on the spot, but I think it's a good idea. Get one of those big old carts from Home Depot that people get when they're buying like the drywall or something. Okay. Put a lawn chair on it, put a cooler next to you, and then have a friend just push you around the central neighborhood.
How much do you think I'd have to pay them to do that?
I don't know. Maybe you could take turns.
Okay. I'll think about it.
I think it's a good idea. What could possibly go wrong? Besides the brick streets.
I'm just like thinking, well, it's not really, it wouldn't be any worse than some of the flooring, the cracks and stuff you have to go over. Is good-dunk.
Right. I'm just saying. 2026.
The only thing that's missing at that idea is having like a speakerphone. Anyway. We have some celebrations. OTP's 65th anniversary,
Yay.
the Playhouse. 65 years in the community. A minor boatload of productions this year. Matilda's up right now. Studio production is next. Young Company's still going strong. So plenty of chances to celebrate OTP's 65th anniversary, which will wrap up in technically, June of next year?
I think that's right. And so when we were doing the minutes, the way the stage was set up in the Schmuckel Theater, the studio theater downstairs, the waiting area for the actors when you were off stage was the hallway, the main hallway where the bathrooms are. And there's a showcase there that has pictures from throughout OTP's history. And I was looking at some of these pictures, which are in great shape. And I was like, oh, I kind of recognize some of these faces. And I read more closely and like, this one's from the year I was born. And this one is from like 20 years before or 10 years before that. I mean, it's an incredible organization.
Yeah. And 65 years is a very impressive milestone.
Yeah.
Interlochen is kicking off basically like a ramp up, I would say, right, to their 100-year anniversary, which will be in 2028. So that kicks off technically in the spring. But I mean, again, we could just do like a 3-hour episode just on Interlochen. But amazing things happening there. And then not just Interlochen specific, like the students or teachers. They host lots of different folks. Again, like I saw Benzie Symphony Orchestra at Corson. Like there's always good things. I would guess that probably 320 to 340 days out of the year, there's a performance happening at Interlochen.
I think that is easily the case.
Yeah.
Big or small. 100%, because people think about the Interlochen performances as the big headlining
summer
national
series.
names who come in the summer. And that is true, and that is fabulous. And it's sort of incredible when like friends back in Seattle know I've moved here and they say, what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, well, I'm going to see Melissa Etheridge like at work.
Yeah.
You know, she's going to be across the street from my office. And my partner, his office is, you know, within sound check distance. So she sounds pretty good, he says. You know, like it's incredible what they bring in. But make time to go see whatever you can at Interlochen because the students there are phenomenal.
Yes.
Phenomenal. And the way they practice their art is not just studied and disciplined, but also full of so much joy.
Yes.
And I got to tell you, I don't deal with students in my job at Interlochen. I work for Interlochen Public Radio. I really can't speak on behalf of the institution, but I walk around campus and I just feel, you know how you can sort of like smell the emotion of a place?
Yeah.
Right? It's joyful. It is just such a joyful place. So soak in that a little bit whenever you can, I say, be it a large concert or recital in the cathedral.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the cathedral. Or a recital in the chapel.
There we go. We also have lots of well-known names in the area that are doing lots of different things. And so I'll just remind folks, we have Dominic Fortuna, we have Miriam Pico, Lori Sears, Bob James, who is a Grammy Award-winning artist. I have a lot of his albums at home. So, you know, specific names to keep an ear out for. They've been around town doing tons of different stuff all over. IPR had their pianos in the street.
That was magical.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So if you missed it, bummer. But I hope something like that happens again. But basically, the social district on 8th Street. Can I go off on this for a second?
Yes, you may.
The social district on 8th Street at Garfield in Traverse City, you know, the Kauai Piano Gallery is right there. So there are readily available pianos. They were rolled out into the street, and these incredibly talented students from the Long Young Artists program came and played right there. And I got to tell you, it was like summer had begun. It was just like perfect. And I don't think any of us at Interlochen Public Radio fully expected it to be that magical. We knew we were doing something cool.
Yeah.
But when it happened, I think all of us sort of looked at each other and went, wow, that was good.
Yep.
That was good.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I also want to piggyback off that, though, because their IPR also had the classical happy hour series at Little Fleet. I went to one with the, I'm going to butcher the name, Archipelago? Yes. Wow. So far off. I was blown away. I immediately Googled that nonprofit and learned a little bit about them. And I learned that happy hour that we saw them, first off, not only is there just like great food and it's an easy go-to find spot, but it was standing room only. And that group is comprised of young folk who kind of apply to be part of this series for the summer. And these particular folks on the stage, young folks, had met each other 2 days ago, and they showed up and ripped like they have been hanging out in New Orleans in the jazz corner for 10 years. I mean, it was mind-blowing how incredible they played together. You just would not have known that they didn't know each other at all.
Our music director at IPR, Amanda Sewell, can speak to this much more eloquently than I, but as an observer who sits in the office next to hers and just listens to classical IPR, I'm really happy that one of their kind of core values as a classical radio service is that classical music's for everybody. Everybody, period, no exceptions. And it doesn't need to be stuffy, and it doesn't need to be locked away, and you don't need to get really close to the microphone and say, that was Brahms. And that there's a place for that, and that's lovely. But we also can go to the Little Fleet and just rock out. And we can throw a piano into the street and play there. And we can do all these events. As we're taping this, a couple days after we tape this, they're doing an event where they're pairing classical music with beers from Earthen Ales. And you can have a beer that relates in some way to what you're hearing. And why not?
Why not?
Right? Like, and that applies to various art forms, is just finding ways to make them accessible. And I think classical IPR, I know I'm biased, but I think classical IPR does a pretty good job of that.
I think so. And honestly, one of my biggest hopes and dreams for not just the podcast to bring people together who probably don't know each other or who are in two very different disciplines is to build that bridge a little bit more and to create more partnerships, because I think there is endless opportunity based on the community being super small business, local entrepreneur, new ideas focused. I mean, downtown's kind of booming and the malls are struggling, right? We've seen big box stores diminish over time, and we are very much a community that supports local restaurants, local this, and that. And I love to see it. And so I love to see anyone who is partnering together in that regard. So I say more of it. We have the Viridian Strings at the Alluvian. They came a few different times, and I would highly recommend you Google them. Viridian Strings is a group of folks that it changes a little bit. There's a group of them that play together, usually a quartet, and I got to hear them play world premiere music by Cynthia Van Maanen, who created our podcast music and was on early on, as well as other just exquisite music. And it's fun and it's entertaining and it's edgy and it's all the things that you want in a quartet. And they play at the Alluvian. There's amazing things happening at the Alluvian all the time. I feel like the Alluvian is honestly TC's like best kept secret. And I don't want it to be a secret anymore. I want, people should know the Jeff Haas Trio is doing amazing things there. They have a big band. They do Funky Mondays every Monday. Full Tilt Improv has their shows there as well. They have I think it's monthly or so, storytelling program called Hear Say. They have a world music series. I mean, tons and tons of different stuff is happening there. And so if you're not in on the Alluvian and you haven't been there as an event space, just Google the Alluvian, whether you see the Viridian Strings or anything else, and definitely add that to your to-do list in 2026.
And I can share a little news with you. Hearsay, live storytelling, fantastic things that they do. They do several shows a year where they bring community members up to tell stories on stage. And we are in the early days of partnering with them at IPR to bring some of those programs to the radio.
Perfect.
Which I'm very excited about.
See, again,
it's going to be a while before it happens, but we're starting the ball rolling right now.
Partnership and collaboration.
Yep.
It's what keeps us all together. The rising tide raises all boats.
Absolutely.
We also have highlights here. I feel like we've been yammering on, and this is like a fraction of the list of things, but Cherry Capital Men's Chorus doing fantastic work. Chad, our friend Chad, helps direct that. We're actually going to go see them next
Lovely.
Tuesday. And we're having dinner and going to go see their winter songs.
Oh, me? Yes, that's right. I am. I was like, oh, isn't that nice for you, Chelsea? Yes, I am.
That sounds so lovely for you.
Oh, my goodness.
Leelanau Summer Music Festival. This is focused on chamber music. I believe they play in like the either Maple City or Cedar area. Again, summer is a great time to get out and about. It's not just about being on water or at the beach, even though that's my job. My job in the summer is beach. But go see some music, and they do wonderful stuff as well. Benzie Community Band, Benzie Community Chorus. Again, if you're sleeping on Benzie, I'm here to wake you up. And then one other last thing before we kind of start segueing into a little bit different part of today's podcast is we haven't had her on yet, but there is a gal in town named Dana Black who hosts a few-month-long training on how to be a good public speaker or storyteller. And Dana is a actress from Chicago, and she helps folks with their TED Talks. And I bring this up because I think that a lot of times, we think about performing arts and we forget about the technical aspects and yada, yada. But public speaking is a form of performance art.
100%.
And people are terrified to do it. And I think the more that we encourage folks to explore different aspects of their voice and storytelling and things that resonate with them, the better I think we become at being connected. You don't have to be an actor on stage. You don't have to play an instrument. You don't have to sing to be a part of it, but you could learn how to be a good public speaker and just tell your story. Or maybe that's something you just want to do to shake some nerves off, or something for work or something just personal, just for you. You don't have to tell anybody about it. But she just had their series this past fall, and they had a event where you get to see everybody's presentation at the end. They had over 100 people show up. They've had some people say it was one of the best things I've seen in Traverse City. So talk about a secret. That program, I hope, renews next year. It's currently called Let Her Speak. It might evolve over time, but it's an incredible series. And so, again, another opportunity of the 1 million performing art-based opportunities in this region. So we had some endings this year of things that, we are sad kind of ended, but we also recognize that everything has its season. Our friends at Good on Paper, a phenomenal improv troupe, ended their more formal run, I guess I would say. They do still do contracted work, for specific shows for things like that, but their general performing series has come to a close. So while we're sad, we're glad they're still at least intact for some special stuff. So maybe we'll see them around, or maybe you will see them around, depending on the event. Bijou by the Bay. It's a deep sigh there because it is, I drive by the parkway, I don't know how many times a week, 3, 4, 5 times a week. And when I see it, it's sad that it's just empty.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going on probably behind the scenes around what's going to happen with the Bijou, but it has been multiple spaces for multiple entities over many, many years. And I hope, I kind of put it under the endings section here because it's just in limbo. It's current. The form that we knew most recently doesn't exist anymore. That chapter's ended, I would say.
Can I ask you, as somebody who's lived here a long time, do you look at the Bijou by the Bay and, the lights are off now, and do you think, to everything, turn, or do you think, I hope this time isn't the last time something's in there? Because I feel that way about my hometown sometimes, where I see things cycling in and out, and there's part of me sometimes that's like, well, something else is coming. And there's another part of me sometimes that thinks, I hope something else comes,
I think that particular building, because of its history, something will come.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building.
It used to be a mini museum that was tied to our zoo. That took me a minute to find that word, but zoo. We had a little zoo. It was called the Clinch Park Zoo.
Huh.
And they housed local native animals. So you had a deer, and there might have been a bison at one point.
Wow.
And I know this because a girl that I went to high school with worked there, and they had probably the fattest beaver I've ever seen in my life was there. They had a little train, probably no bigger than the size of, definitely smaller than the size of this table, but it was a little train track and kids could ride the train around. They had, reptiles and local fish and whatever else. And it was very much focused on that region. And that building was a lot of I would say natural history of the area as well as indigenous history. So from my perspective, I certainly hope it comes back around. I don't know what new life it will take on, but I know that we do have a really big challenge in this area of a lack of good performing arts space. TC Phil's experienced that. We have some spaces that aren't as usable as they could be. And so I would love to see the Bijou into a multifaceted event venue of some kind.
Cool.
Brilliant Books. I'm making a note here because Brilliant Books supplied me at least many theatrical-based books, including scripts. And I think the whole community kind of mourns the loss of that business for many different reasons. Again, this community is a very big, local, small, focused town. And to see a local bookstore have its ending is sad.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lovely place, and yeah, I just got my, I'm sure pre-programmed many months ago, reminder that my my subscription, my membership there is expiring soon, and I woke up this morning and saw that and thought, oh gosh.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Brilliant Books, for doing what you did.
Absolutely. We have some beginnings that happened this year and continue to happen into next year. Voyageurs Comedy Club. Renovation is still happening, so they're hoping for an early 2026 opening, but that is exciting as comedy seems to be a little bit in a renaissance, I would say, in West and Northern Michigan. As mentioned before, Glen Arbor Players and the Leelanau School have partnered together, but one of the most important parts is that Leelanau School has raised enough money for a first round to renovate parts of its auditorium, which is huge because it hasn't been touched in decades.
Yeah.
The Match, I mentioned this earlier that I'd be bringing this up, and here we are. The Match is a relatively new space that our friends over at Mashup Rock and Roll have decided to create that is available for folks who want to perform and use the space. So it's kind of a nice multi-purpose space. I know Autumn Playhouse has used it for rehearsals, but other folks have come in and used that space too. And that's great because, again, we are in dire need of more performing spaces. And one little thing I want to mention that is coming, I think in the spring of 2026, is an opportunity for folks who love to travel to see different shows, whether that's Chicago, New York, other major cities, and see maybe the latest and greatest that's out there that might come to a theater near you. There will be an experience, I think, coming down the pipeline for folks that are interested in travel specifically for theater. So I can't say too much about that, but I know that that is coming down the pipeline. So lots of exciting things. Everything we talked about has happened, but will continue to happen, I think, next year.
That's the best part of this, right? What a year and what a long list we've just shared, but that all of this and more is ahead of us. What an enviable place to find ourselves.
Yeah. Do you have any predictions for next year? I mean, if you were to kind of like zoom out and think about the current landscape, and everything we just yammered out, which is probably only 30% at most of what's really happened. Because we didn't even talk about all the opportunities of singer and songwriters producing their own stuff at local bars and wineries and stuff around town here. But I don't know, any ideas? If you were to shake a magic 8-ball, what's your prediction?
I mean, I think you're going to see more expansion of genre. I think, we've talked about, let me just look here. We've talked about, school theater, community theater, dance, orchestras, all these different special events. For example, the Fresh Coast Film Festival will be here at the end of April and into the that weekend, April 30th through May 3rd. There's obviously been a film festival in Traverse City before, but to have one back that is a contained festival versus spread out week to week, so that's really cool. And it's a niche festival in that all the films are kind of about the outdoors and the environment and life outdoors. I think that's going to be really special. So if I had to predict anything, as somebody who's only been here 3 years and has not seen the ebb and flow of life in Northwest Lower Michigan, I think it's that. I think you'll start finding people expanding into new and creative ways to share art. Design Week is another example. There was a Design Week this fall, and that's something that stretched across so many different forms of visual art and audio art and all kinds of things. So I'm excited to see what is the thing we haven't even conceived of yet that somebody else has, and they're going to show up and be like, hey, what if we? And then they do. And that's kind of what this place seems to be all about.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a unique incubator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unintentionally, probably.
Well, I think when you're in a place where not everything exists already, you have the chance to build it the way you want it. Versus trying to fit your idea into something that already kind of exists in a big city. Here, it's like, well, we don't have one of those. Why can't we make one of those? And that is so exciting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you can do it at a scale that's not intimidating.
Yes.
I think when I was in Los Angeles, I would always tell people, I'm like, LA is a city where if you think of something, it may already exist because there's so many people here and so many ideas and so much innovation happening. But the reality is that if you have a unique idea for a program or a show or something like that, only you are going to put that together, and it's going to be unique to you and that idea. And so, yes, you could do that in Los Angeles because maybe there are technically more resources. It's a bigger city, so maybe there's technically more event space, or there's just more bodies to audition for a show, and there's different connections to be made and deeper pockets or whatever. But don't write off the small town in the sense that you can't do the same thing, because you can. And you might be able to actually do it better because you can get to know your community and then bring in those folks and say, you know what? Like I think about Mashup, and I think, Leslie saw an incredible opportunity of, is the thing I really want to do? It doesn't exist. I'm going to make it happen. And, she partnered with a variety of folks to make it happen. And here we are. And back to our first episode where we talked about competition and things like that, I'm like, I don't think competition really exists in the performing arts, at least not in this region, not by the people that are, I think, truly there for the art in that sense. And not in a lofty sense,
Right,
but like, no, I just really love this kind of sense.
we all want to see each other succeed. I remember listening to that first episode with, Wes Curry, especially highlighting, and Kendall highlighting that, and in particular. And it was resonating with me because the same thing's happening in journalism right now, which is a totally different conversation, I know. But I think you're seeing in a lot of different spaces the idea that we are in sort of this post-competitive world. And it is much more fun and much more energizing to build each other up than to try to outdo each other.
Yeah.
And it's not pie. Like, there's enough to go around. So,
Yeah, and it's also not, we're not tied to an industry here that is competitive through the stock market, right? Yeah. We're not giant production companies eating up other production companies. We're local people just trying to put together some stories and do what we love. So I predict, I would agree with that. I would agree with that prediction. I wanted to ask you, we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but I had a big aha moment. So I'll preface the question with my little story, but I had a big aha moment when I went to Interlochen and I saw the performance of Alice by Heart, which is one of my absolute favorite musicals. And it was done in the Black Box Theater at the Phoenix Theater. And it was such a moving and touching performance that afterwards I realized I don't know that I want to be in so many shows, but I think what I really want that feeds my soul is seeing more shows and having that experience because they are related. They're truly like inseparable. If you see art, it might make you want to do more art or do different art or explore something that it brought up in you as a human. And so I'm kind of curious, this is the actual question here. What do you think we can do as fellow artists in this region to either propel your prediction into reality or just to support each other? Again, this is a tight-knit community and it's growing, and there's tensions here and there about X, Y, and Z, but the artistic community underpins a current, I think, of goodness and hope in all of us for different reasons. So I don't know. What do you think we can do to continue to support that in 2026?
I mean, I think it's as simple as showing up. I think go to things, especially things you're not sure you'll like or not sure you have any experience with, right? Which might be a better way to say it. Because I think that's the knee-jerk way, right? Oh, I'm not sure I'm going to like that. And I try to reset my brain always and be like, well, I'm not sure I know much about that. So go to things, participate in things, patronize the arts, and just kind of soak it in. Because I think not only is it a boost to have people at the thing you're doing, and certainly the money of ticket sales and all that, but I think it feeds you as an artist, both what you were just talking about, that kind of soul-fulfilling thing, but also when you're going to then make art, you have so much more to draw on, so many more pieces of inspiration. Humans crave being led to discovery by other humans. There's nothing more human, as long as we've been a species, of, in one way or another, taking each other by the hand and saying, come with me, I want to show you something. And that is what art does. And the more we can do that for each other, and whether we're the person leading or the person who's been taken by the hand and is just going to see what's over the hill, I think that's the best thing we can do for each other.
Yeah. I think that also relates to probably our shared kind of hopes and dreams for 2026, which sounds, again, maybe like one of those cute little cat posters hanging. It says, you can do it. You can beat Monday. But I think about that of, kind of taking each other's hand and continuing to storytell. And that's really what performing arts is at the end of the day. It's the most foundational thing that we as human beings do. And it predates tons and tons and tons of things historically. And so, do you have any specific, hopes and dreams around, maybe yourself as a performing artist or or just things that you want to do next year with somebody, maybe pulling them or being pulled by somebody?
I want more stories about different things, more stories that make me think, more stories that make me look at the world around me. When we were doing The Minutes, which, without getting into the whole plot, is a comedy that ends with a message about where we are in the world right now. One of the most joyful moments in that whole production process for me was very near the end, when I finally had a realization about the show. We're 2 weeks from closing, and we're right before opening or something. We're right at the end of this process. We've been doing it for weeks and weeks, and I had my moment where I'm like, oh, I get what it's trying to tell me, and I want more of those moments. That's my hope for the next year, whether I'm participating as an artist or just, participating as a member of the audience. I want more moments where, even if I'm on my drive home or even 2 weeks after I've seen something, I go, oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's the gift.
I love it. We are going to wrap up here. Normally we do rapid fire, but I feel like this is not a rapid fire episode.
So I don't need the seatbelt that's attached here?
No,
Okay.
I mean, it's always good to keep it on until we get to the boarding gate. But I think our main takeaways, if we zoom out on this, is that there's an incredible amount of storytelling that's happening in about a million different genres. And there's new works happening. There's classics revived. There's kids getting introduced to stories they've never heard of before, and also to characters they can't necessarily relate with due to a lot of different things. And that is educational on multiple fronts. We have musicians, we have endless chorus, we have jazz quartets, we have performance, but we have so much happening in this region that I think truly is mind-blowing. And I'm so glad that we get to celebrate it. And I hope that, our takeaways are to keep showing up. One of my favorite phrases, to expand your horizons a little bit, however that is for you, and to continue having those hopes and dreams for whatever it is you'd like to participate in that adds value to your world, but to those around you. It's very holiday-esque of us, spirit of hope here
I like
on the
it.
podcast.
I'm a
So
fan.
thank you so much, Ed, for being here. This is a little bit longer episode, but I think it was worth it. And thank you so much for your commentary and
Thanks for having me.
everything. So
I learned a lot.
yeah, we do a lot in this region.
Yeah, I'm ready for 2026.
Yes. Well, thank you everyone to our listeners this year. We have just wrapped our 9th episode in 4 months time, which is crazy. And we continue to get new subscribers, and I continue to hear commentary about how people like the podcast. And so I'm really grateful for everyone's partnership here and everyone's support. And so we will see you in 2026. Special shout out to New Leonard Media, who hosts us here in this lovely studio. And we hope you have a happy, healthy, and joyful holiday season, however you celebrate. And we'll see you in 2026. Thank you.